Hey everybody, this is Jack Hammer from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Wanted to come on today and give you guys a nice breakdown, not a film breakdown, but a nice breakdown of this big matchup between the 49ers and Packers. When this game was finally settled and it was going to be Niners Packers, there was nobody that I felt like would be a better guest to have come on and break this down for you than the guest that I'm going to bring out. I have here with me, Rich Madrid. Rich works for the ACME company. He writes covers the Packers there, does film breakdowns on the Packers throughout the season, as well as writing for Niner Nation. So when you put in his background with the Packers along with his knowledge of the 49ers, I don't think there's a better guest that you could have on. How you doing, Rich? Oh, I can't hear you. Lost you.
Sorry, I was muted. I muted
Yeah,
myself. I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Like I told you earlier, I'm excited to have you on, and we've tried to connect a couple different times. It didn't work out, but I think this is the perfect time to do it because 49ers Packers and the NFC Championship game. I don't know if it gets a whole lot better than this, or not even the NFC Championship game. This is the divisional round here, but uh, it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great game, and I wanted to get your perspective on this because, like I said in the opening, I think you bring a unique perspective to this matchup with your knowledge on both sides, and uh, let's go ahead and if you're up for it, we'll start off with talking a little bit about the 49ers offense versus the Packers defense and how you see that matchup playing out.
Wow, that's a you could take that in so many different directions. I think we've seen kind of every iteration of the 49ers offense versus the Packers the last four times they've played. Hit them with heavy play action in 2019 in the first game, then hit them with just nothing but the run game in the playoff game that year in the NFC Championship. Then you get the Packers last year in a COVID year, down year, short week, everybody either sick or hurt. And it was kind of let Mullins chuck it all over the yard. And then obviously, you're not going to keep up with Aaron Rodgers that way. Not that
Sure.
guy, anyways. Um, and then in the first game this year, it was kind of a tale of two halves for both teams. The Packers were really successful throwing the ball in the first half, moving the ball at will on the 49ers. And then in the second half, the Packers couldn't convert any third downs. And the 49ers did. They converted like 4 third and longs and got right back in the game and, had a chance to win with just a little over 37 or about 37 seconds left. And the rest is history on that one. So it's been a pretty good, last 4 games with each team. This one could go any different way. I mean, I definitely think Shanahan's going to have adjustments for what they did the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll probably see something hopefully a little similar to the NFC Championship game in 2019. A little more reliance on some of that gap scheme, run stuff, power, counter, trap, and things like that, and kind of take advantage of how the Packers like to set their defensive ends really wide.
One of the things that I think a lot of folks look at when they look at this matchup is the Packers' run defense hasn't been very good overall. They're 30th in the league in terms of yards per attempt given up. And we know when you go back and we watch the film of the week 3 matchup, the 49ers really struggled running in that game. Debo Samuel only had 2 carries in week 3. Elijah Mitchell wasn't there. What do you think is going to be the important piece for the 49ers to be able to run the ball better? Because I think they only had 60 something yards against the Packers there in week 3.
Yeah, it was really more of who it wasn't so much about who the running backs were in that game, and I think it was only Trey Sermon and Kyle Juszczyk for the majority of it.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, the offensive line couldn't get any push up front. Kenny Clark, Packers defensive tackle, they like to move him all around the front, and then he just wrecked shop every other play. It seemed like I think he probably had 8 or 9 pressures that game in the passing game, and then as far as blowing up the run, I mean, he was just seemed to know where the play was going almost every time, and he was there to either blow up Alex Mack or Brunskill or one of those guys in the interior. If you can do that, you can knock out 2 offensive linemen, and then you let Preston Smith eat 2 of the double team blocks on the edge from Kittle and Juszczyk. Those linebackers are going to roam free, and the safeties are going to come up and play the run, and that's really what happened in the first half of that game.
Yeah, because they did better in the second half. And when you watch the game back, when you watch like the difference between the way that 49ers ran in the first half versus the second half, what was different, or did you notice anything other than maybe they just changed up some of the schemes that they were running there?
Not a whole lot of difference. I just think the big difference was in the passing game, and Garoppolo able to convert, I think, 4 or 5 third and 8 or longer, because the Packers kept putting them in situations where they needed to throw.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't get anything going in the running game. The Packers were playing a little more three defensive tackle stuff in their 3-4 defense there,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just lining up in bare fronts and taking away the interior, and then forcing the 49ers to get to the edge and hold their blocks there, and they just couldn't do it. I do think there's opportunity there for Kyle to come back and kind of hit more of the interior stuff, because they just haven't run a lot of the gap scheme running stuff this year. So I'm interested to see how that happens. But it just the big difference in that was at the second half with Garoppolo hitting those throws. I think they leaned a little more on play action, got some guys open that way, and then converted on other series to score. And we shouldn't overlook the fact that they had to bring in Lance on that final play of the first half to even get him on the board. So I think that was a big contributing factor in how they hung around in that one too. It just, it was really a total offensive effort by literally everyone.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because the Packers are up 17-0. They scored to go up 17-0 right there at the end. It looks like it's going to be the end of the first half, and you get the long kickoff return by Cannon. Really was what set that up, and before the Packers get the ball back, it's gone from 17-0 to 17-14, and all of a sudden it's a game. And no, I'm with you. I was really impressed watching Kenny Clark. He, like you said, he definitely blew that up. And the other guy that really impressed me was the linebacker. I think it was Campbell.
Yeah,
He's 59. He was doing a really
yeah,
good
he's
job of.
really good.
Yeah, he was really doing a good job of cutting off the cutoff lane, the cutback lanes.
Yeah, there's several plays where you can see how it works in tandem with Clark just eating the double team, Preston Smith not letting those guys get to the second level, and then Campbell just free roaming to be able to track the ball carrier, and shoot inside real quick to get him. He had a really nice stop on Debo on one of those runs that Debo had where he was coming around, almost like an end around where they motion him and then hand him off as he gets behind the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And Campbell's a good player. I mean, he's an all-pro. He played like that pretty much week after week. Just a really solid pickup that they had.
Yeah, and it looks like Jair Alexander is going to be back in the secondary for him tomorrow night. And I'm not sure about the linebacker. I know there was a linebacker that they traded for from Houston, but I don't think he's going to be active.
That I'm not sure. They're outside of Campbell, the linebackers. Obviously, Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary are outside linebackers, but they're considered edge rushers. And then the other guy that they throw in there is Chris Barnes. He's not very good. I think he's going to be ripe for the opportunity for Shanahan to go after in that front. But and they've got other guys that have kind of shuffled in and out. They got gashed pretty good by the Browns, but that game they were missing a couple of linebackers. I don't think they were playing with a couple of backups in that one too. So they are definitely getting some guys healthy. Alexander, I think, is going to be on a pitch count, though. I don't think he's going to play the whole game, but their secondary is still pretty decent in that regard.
Yeah, no, they're a pretty good team. I mean, you don't get to 13-4 and the number one seed in the conference if you're not a pretty good team. Let's change gears real quick and take a look at the 49ers defense, because I have a feeling the 49ers offense is going to be able to move the ball a little bit and put some points on the board. But when it comes to the 49ers defense up against Aaron Rodgers, is there a way that they're going to be able to slow this guy down?
You really got to put the clamp down on the clamps on his receivers. Really, that's the only way to do it, and they're going to get their opportunities to do that. I mean, it is the NFL, and Rodgers isn't going to make ridiculous throw after ridiculous throw the entire game. I mean, they're going to get their opportunities to get 3 and outs and get them off the field, and the way they do that is by just extremely strategic coverages that they're going to play on the back end and limiting some of the things that the Packers like to do, and then. They're really going to have to get after some of the weaker offensive linemen up front. I don't think they did as well of a job in that in week 3. But then again, the week 3 Packers offensive line was a lot different than it was in week 6 and 8, middle of the season, end of the season. And so I think there's opportunities there too. They do have a couple of guys that have played okay, but they're not great. I mean, a couple of the guys, aren't very good at picking up defensive line stunts, and D'Amico Ryans loves to do that. You can
Mhm.
kind of overwhelm them with strategically timed blitzes. He kept a lot of the fire zone blitz schemes that Saleh implemented. He ran them against the Rams and the Cowboys recently, and they're just well timed. He's not going to use them every series or every other series. They're going to be in extremely high leverage situations that they need to get the ball back or need to get them off the field. So they can rely on that, and the pass rush will get after Rodgers. I mean, we have seen Armstead and Bosa, wreck shop on their offensive line. Even in week 3, they did
Mhm.
on a few plays. So there's going to be opportunity there. It's just both offense and defense need to be working in tandem here. If the defense gets them the ball back, they have to score. They have to find a way to get points or something, or pin them deep, or just to keep Rodgers off the field. But
Mhm.
I do think there are ways to do it, and it's going to rely on stunting the front and blitzing at the right time.
Yeah, that was a big piece of the game on Saturday, at least early on. The Packers showed early on the ability to chip Bosa and really take him off his game. And that first third down, the Cowboys tried to chip him, and Bosa stunned it up inside and gets home on the sack with Ebicom. I think that kind of set the tone for the game. When you look at you mentioned the Packers have some offensive linemen that could get beat. Who among the 49ers defensive front do you think could really make a statement tomorrow night?
I think DJ Jones can. I think he's probably going to have his way with Royce Newman, depending on where they line up Jones. Royce Newman plays right guard, and he struggled picking up stunts all year. They've got a couple other young guys in there. Josh Nijman, he's another young tackle. They're getting back Bakhtiari, but they don't as of today, they don't know if Bakhtiari is going to even play now.
Okay.
So that's certainly big. But they did get back, I think, not Jenkins, but I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. But
Yeah, because they were missing Jenkins in the first matchup, I believe, too, right? Because they were
yeah,
using their third string left tackle in
he's
that
been
game.
hurt off and on. Oh, Billy
Mhm.
Turner is the one coming back. That's the name. And he's decent. But like I said, their offense right now hinges on Rodgers' ability to get the ball out in less than 2 seconds. On some of those passes in the Week 3 game, I was able to impose like a timer over the tape and
Mhm.
start it and stop it at the snap and when Rodgers threw it. And those 20, 30, 40-yard passes that Rodgers completed, he took the snap and shotgun and threw it right away in less than 2 seconds. I think it was like 1.6 seconds is what I timed it.
Uh-huh.
And I timed it several times to make sure I was getting it right.
Yeah.
And that's what it came out to. It's just you can't cover in 3 seconds. You can't get in position in 1.5 seconds between when he catches the snap and throws it. It's just difficult. And then they'll hit you with the quick game stuff too, slants over the middle. The guys they're just going to find ways to get open, and the 49ers really have to kind of hang back and let things develop in front of them and get in those passing lanes.
How big is it, do you think, for the Packers to not have? I think Scantling is not going to be able to go tomorrow. How big of of a loss is that? Because I know he's one of their deeper threats that they have. Even though Lazard did have the big gain right at the beginning of the game in Week 3.
Yeah, those guys didn't really do a lot in that game. It was mostly Adams. I think Lazard only had the one catch, or maybe, and then I think Scantling had the touchdown later in the game. But
Mm-hmm.
they got pretty good production out of Randall Cobb, and he's going to be back playing tomorrow. So I think where they lack in Scantling, they get from Cobb, and Cobb's had a few decent games this year. I mean, the comfortability he has with Rodgers and knowing the two being on the same page nearly all the time, I think is probably better for them than having Scantling in the lineup.
Is Cobb still able to the deep threat that he used to be, or is he more of an underneath guy?
He's more of an underneath over the middle guy right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really running him deep. They like to run him kind of like what the 49ers are doing with Jennings right now, like strategically timed choice routes on third down.
Okay.
He's gone vertical over the middle a couple of times, and Rodgers has put the ball right in his hands over an extremely tight coverage defender. But they're not going to like run him on go routes one-on-one with anyone. That's just not his game now.
Okay. How do you think Ambry Thomas is going to fare? I think he's the difference, right? Because the rest of the defense is pretty much the same in the secondary. The only in the first game you had Norman and Lenore on the one side, and you're going to have Thomas this week. Do you think that's going to be an improvement for the Flyers defense?
It depends if they give him help. They weren't really giving their corners help in that first game. They let the corners and the nickel defenders line up man to man, and then they sat in single high coverage on a few of those plays. I didn't really like that at all. What has worked for opposing teams is limiting Adams, so even just rotating a safety over that way to help, and then taking your chances with the other guys. I mean, they're going to get production from the other guys. I think the 49ers are better positioned to limit some of that, but the Packers do have answers for that stuff. It's just a matter of the 49ers playing the way they've been playing, and I think they can limit that. I'd much prefer they give somebody help when they're covering Adams than letting him just play man on man.
I was kind of thinking, and you can tell me if I'm crazy on this, but I almost think that if the 49ers can go in there and shut down the run and make Rodgers have to beat them, that's really possibly the best case scenario for the 49ers. If they can take away Jones and Dillon and make it come down to the passing game, that would help them out.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. I said in my Acme Packing Company preview on the 49ers defense, let them run the ball in those RPOs, because their running game is really run pass option based. They like to give Rodgers the freedom to either pull it and throw out to like a quick flat or a quick slant or something, or a bubble. And then, take those away. Don't let the receivers get in space with that. Just let them hand the ball off on the give read and take the 2 or 3 yards, because the Packers don't break a lot of big runs that way. It's really when they go under center that you can expect them to really run the ball on the edges or heavy play action. But the Packers spend most of the time in shotgun. So when you're getting a run play out of shotgun, it's going to be an RPO. Just give up the 2 yards, whatever. I mean, they can do that. Just don't let the receivers get the ball in space on those.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job, I think, on the screen game in week 3. They didn't do a very good job against Jones. I think he had over 4 yards of carry in that first matchup. But if they can slow him down, and the run defense for the 49ers has been a lot better over the recent weeks, I think that would be a big plus for them. Was there anything else on the matchup between the offense and defense there that you wanted to touch base on?
Not really sure. I think those are the highlights. I'm curious to see how Shanahan's going to counter those defensive fronts. If he's going to lean more on like a 2019 game plan, and I don't mean like running the ball and only letting Garoppolo pass like 8 times, but like using the gap scheme runs that can trap the edges and push up field in the middle. Because if you get a couple of down blocks and you trap the defensive end, because they like to sit Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary out pretty wide. Either in a really wide 5 or a wide 9 technique, then you can probably create some lanes in the middle. It just, you can probably speak to this a little more than I can, but I don't think they've really run a lot of the power counter game this year that much as they have in the years past. They really leaned on it in 2019, but not this year.
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of it. It seems like they've been a lot more
misdirection zone based, and
they've been really trying to get to the edge quite a bit, and then when teams overflow it, they're running that toss split
inside
valley zone
toss.
And they hit it, and that's what they did against Dallas, at least, right? They really forced the outside, and you can see Dallas overplaying it, and then in the second half they come back and they start running everything back up inside, and they did the same thing to the Rams the week before. So that's definitely been it seems like the basis of their run game, especially over the second half of the year. So let's take a look at this one now. So now we've got the offense and defense kind of broken down. Instead of having you give me a prediction as to who's going to win the game and put you on the spot that way, let's look at it from both sides. The Packers are going to win the game if what happens?
If Aaron Rodgers can sit back there and hit these throws, man, they cannot let. I mean, he's going to get his. You just figure it's Rodgers. It's the playoffs. Everybody is playing. Everybody's only playing the best teams now. Rodgers is going to certainly make plays, and so will the 49ers. But you you can't let him be consistent with that stuff. You can't let him sit there and throw the ball 40 yards downfield in less than 2 seconds. You gotta have tight coverage on these guys, and I think there are some weaknesses there. K'Wan Williams got beat by Lazard on a slot fade in week 3, and then he got beat by a slot fade for a touchdown in the game last week. So the Packers are going to move Adams and Lazard inside against some of these maybe slower defenders, Alshire or another linebacker, or Williams or something, and they're gonna try to pick them apart. It's really going to hinge on what the 49ers do with their safeties. Maybe work Ward down in there to cover Adams or something. Something that's going to give them a little more experience and knowledge in how to cover these guys than just a smaller slot corner.
Yeah.
If they can do that, then I think they're going to hang around and win.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I did notice that in the week 3 matchup, they had Tart and Ward playing up close, at least early on, and when the Packers were 5 wide, and they had Hufanga back there as a single high safety a couple of times when they got beat. So yeah, I agree with you. I think Rodgers is going to get his. You're not going to stop him. I was looking at the numbers, and I think he's thrown for 280 yards or something like that in the 5 games that they've played against each other under Shanahan, and that includes the 100-yard game in the regular season of 2019. So he's going to put up around 280, 300 yards probably. That's just kind of what you need to expect. And it's going to be a tough matchup for the 49ers defense when it comes to that. When we take a look at the other side, how about if the 49ers, how are they going to win this game?
Well, we keep saying it's Garoppolo. At some point, the luck's going to run out with some of his decisions mattering later in games. I'm not so sure. Right now, I think I'm leaning that the Packers would probably win, because we don't know how Garoppolo is going to play. I think if Garoppolo was 100% healthy, didn't have the thumb or shoulder, I would feel much more comfortable about it. But at some point, his mistakes have to matter, and I think this is the game where it probably matters. If he doesn't make those mistakes, and they can move the ball on the ground and limit him throwing to just converting on some of these key third downs, then I think they hang on and win, or they can hang around and make it a close game, and he can hopefully engineer a comeback or whatever they need however it plays out. But they just can't have the mistakes from him. I think this is a game where if it does happen like it did in Dallas, they're not going to hang on to win. So they need to limit that.
I agree with you. I think it's funny when you go back, and I was just kind of looking at this. The 49ers, they've had these 5 games, and the only game that wasn't close was the COVID game. The 49ers lost on field goals at the end twice, and then they had their 2 blowout wins. So I think it's going to be a really tight game. But I agree with you on the Garoppolo piece, and really the 49ers as a whole. The only way that they win this game is if they come out either plus. I really think they have to come out plus on the turnovers, which could be hard when you consider the Packers have only turned the ball over 9 times if you take Jordan Love out of off the field all season long. So I think
you tweeted it out earlier. Rodgers' interception rate during the season is ridiculously low, and then when he gets in the playoffs, it's a little bit higher. So
it is. It's a little bit higher.
One or two of those.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher in the postseason. It's not nearly what we're talking about as far as Jimmy Garoppolo per game kind of thing. But I think he's thrown 12 interceptions in the 21 games, and he has 18 total turnovers, because I think he has some fumbles as well that he's lost. So maybe it's 15, somewhere around there, 18, 15, close enough. But yeah, I think the only way that the 49ers come out ahead is they have to win the turnover battle, and they have to run the ball, and they have to, by running the ball, they're taking the ball out of Rodgers' hands and keeping it. They've got to be able to find a way to keep Green Bay under 24 points. I think that we're at 24 or less, and they've done a really good job against some really good quarterbacks over the second half of the year. That's part of the other thing that's fun about this matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think there's opportunity there to get one over on Green Bay too.
Yeah, it'll be going into Lambeau in January, and it's going to be like I don't know, at the last weather report I saw to Green Bay, it's supposed to be about 5 degrees during kickoff with a wind chill of -10. And the biggest positive for the 49ers, I think, when it comes to the weather, would be if there's wind. that could be the differentiator of this, because if it's windy, that could cause some issues with the quarterbacks and maybe play into the 49ers' hands in the run game.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, no, it'll be a good contest. Like Rich says, he thinks that the 49ers are going to be in tough and might lose, and I'm right there with him. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. But yeah, if you've, I'm looking over, I don't really see a whole lot of questions. Let me just see if there's any really quick we could hit on before we jump off.
Sure.
Uh, nah, that's not a good one. I thought it was something else. We know why offensive linemen don't get rotated out, because they're offensive linemen. The offensive line play is like a ballet. Everybody has their role, and those guys have to get used to where everybody's going. So that's why you don't see them come off the field like you do on defensive rotations. But
You know what? I kind of do like Texas Niners question here if he's still watching. It's more of like kind of making a statement, but
the one that I just took off.
no, it's a little. I don't know where that one's at, but it says you think Kyle doesn't know what he's dealing with, and I actually touched on this in an article with Jordan Elliott at Niners Nation today.
Okay.
One thing I do like is Kyle is very good against his former colleagues that used to work for him with the Washington football team. So he's, in 3 years, hasn't lost to McVay. And, he's 2-2 against Matt LaFleur. And like I said, the two losses are in a COVID year, a down year with basically half the roster out, and then a really close game in week 3. So Kyle knows what's up. He knows how to scheme against these guys. He probably knows their systems better than those coaches know their systems. And I think nothing motivates him more than to go into a game like this against a former colleague, especially one you had off-season drama with, and try to get one over on him. I think he's going to be ready. I think he has the adjustments made. I don't think there's anything he feels more confident about than this week. So I do think he definitely knows what he's dealing with, and he definitely knows how to pull one over on these guys.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've been really impressed with Kyle Shanahan. I've was pretty harsh on him for a while when he got here, because they weren't winning and they weren't scoring points, and Kyle's supposed to be an offensive guru and all that kind of stuff. But this year, especially, just kind of watching everything that he's done from a coaching standpoint, from the way that he's been able to manage his team through the whole quarterback question controversy kind of thing, to the 3-5 start, and now to where they are. I can't give the guy enough credit for keeping everybody, on task, and getting those guys to play for him week in and week out. And then, like you said, just the scheme stuff, the way that they opened up the game against the Cowboys, for example, that reminded me, they did that against Minnesota too in the playoff game in 2019, but that reminded me of old school 49er football back during the Bill Walsh days, when they just would come out and just drive right down the field on teams and get a lead in the first half, and then just kind of sail through the second half. And I like your point also on Shanahan, and the way that he's been able to take care of business against his former colleagues is I think a key one as well.
Yep.
So no, that's a good one. And let's see where we are. Yeah, and I agree with you. Garoppolo is going to be the X factor. He always is the X factor, because you just know what you're going to get out of him, right? And if he just comes out and doesn't. If we can just skip the fourth quarter and make the fourth quarter not be a big deal, I think everybody would feel a lot more confident in this game, because Garoppolo's had some rough fourth quarters in the postseason. So it'll be fun to see how this game plays out. And I really appreciate you jumping on and taking the time to come on here and share some of your stuff. I really enjoy what you do on the Twitter, and I see the film stuff that you do, and you've shared some stuff with me that really helps me out as well. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, anytime, man. I like helping people out and helping them try to understand some of this stuff a little bit better. And I don't even, really fully understand everything, obviously, but we're all just trying to, put out the best possible information we can. So I think it's important.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it's gonna be a fun game on Sunday night. And the cool part for you is that regardless of who wins, you get to still write next week about a game, whether it's the 49ers or the Packers, right? So
yeah,
no,
I'm tired, man. It's been a long. That 17th week is tough, or the 18th week, and then I can tell some of I drag out the assignments during the week as the season goes on. It's just it does get tiring, and you guys that do shows all the time, I don't know how you keep it up, but it's great.
No, it's funny because it's only one extra week in the regular season, but man, I don't know, it was probably around like week 9 or something like that. I remember telling some folks, I'm like, man, this season seems like it's the longest season ever, and they still
It does.
got weeks to go. We have a real quick before we pop off. That's Rod. Thank you for the donation. Rod, he says, love your film breakdowns, Jack. Do you think D'Amico sends Tart, K'Wan Williams, and Greenlaw a lot? Element of just a pass rush. I think he's talking about surprising, like the surprise of the pass
Um,
rush, the key on the defense.
I I don't. He's not really that type of coordinator, and him and Sala. I think Sala did it a lot more. It was a little bit more of a staple, like third down concept for them was running a fire zone blitz with Ward and Greenlaw or Ward and Warner or and Ward and the linebacker basically, right? So
Mhm.
it's not something D'Amico Ryans is doing a whole lot, and I think he's just saving it for special occasions, really. And against the Cowboys, they called it 2 times in a row. I don't think the Cowboys were expecting it because it just wasn't something they put on tape a lot. I think what you're going to get a little bit more of probably is the overloaded fronts that they like to run on third down with the 3 defensive linemen on one side and creating like a one-on-one pass rush matchup on the other side. And depending on what they do, they'll rush straight up field and let Bosa work that one-on-one side, or they'll kick Bosa to the inside of that 3 defensive lineman side, and they'll run stunts with the linebacker or 2 of the defensive linemen there. But again, it's only in like certain situations. I don't think they're going to deviate much from that, just because it's tough to do that and rely on something you haven't really relied on all season. And teams right now are really just scheming their best plays and their best defensive schemes and coverages and not really changing a whole lot because you don't have a lot of time, reps, and practice to really hone in on some of the things you might want to. It's like the Packers are doing the same thing offensively and defensively. They're just really running stuff that works, and they've
Mhm.
kind of discarded all the stuff that doesn't. And that's, I think, what all teams are doing right now. It's just you just want to play your best plays and throw your best stuff at them, and not like have to come up with new designs mid-season or in the playoffs. So I think he'll just use them sparingly as needed.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's one of the questions I've got a lot this week, and even last week going to the Dallas game was just the change ups. And it's at this point in the year, you're going with what you do. The Foreigners are going to how the Foreigners are going to attack you on offense. You kind of have a pretty good feel for how they're going to attack you on defense, and now it's about your playmakers going out and making the plays as a coach. And I think the 49ers have gotten a lot better as the season's gone on, and they've gotten healthy, and that's the best part of it. Uh, Smooth, thank you very much. He says, 2 of the good ones. Thanks for the passion, having the heart of a teacher, and trying to educate the masses. That's fun. That's the whole thing's about, right? I know Rich does
Yeah,
his
yeah,
film stuff on Twitter. I do mine on here, and it's fun to come on and talk that stuff and break it out. And the more you watch it, the little things that you see, it's a lot of fun to go through that stuff. So I appreciate it very much.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, no, I don't have anything else for today. Like I said, I just appreciate you coming on and us being able to get together. Hopefully, the folks that check this out are going to have a better feel for what they're watching tomorrow night when the 49ers and the Packers get this thing going. And if you liked what you saw, please hit the like button, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Go check out Rich. His Twitter is there for you. He also, like I said, it's over at the Acme Packing Company, Acme Packing Co. on Twitter. So go check him out and follow his read up on those articles. I saw the one that he put up there. He's telling the Packers how to beat the 49ers. So go over there and see it. It's a good deal because that'll give you a good idea of what to be watching for tomorrow night. So thanks everybody again for watching, and Rich, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.